Hey everyone, my name's Joseph, and I want to do about the 9 years I worked at Service Source. Alright, there was good times, but there's mainly bad times. Now, when my first year there, I can't say what the buildings was except for building 1 and 2. And also, I ain't going to use no names because I don't want to be sued or this video taken down because it embarrassed Service Source. But them 9 years of working at Service Source was working at hell. And let me get on to what I'm saying. The first year there, I made some friends on morning shift. I was supposed to have morning shifts, full-time hours. I made friends with a lot of the co-workers. I made friends with some of the supervisors and managers. But Building 1 only had a full-time shift on mornings, not nights. They changed that later down the line, but that's another story. And I was happy because I could easily went to work, went home, seen my doctor when I got off. And that would have been perfect for me. But the managers, I think, knew my family, and because of that reason, I got the short end of the stick and got put on part-time. I stayed there for a while, but I hated the skeletal crew there because it was not worth working. And plus, with me getting lack of money and lack of hours, I couldn't, if I needed to go to the hospital or doctors, I wouldn't have full medical coverage because of part-time. And that kind of sucks right there because I would be forced to I probably wouldn't be here as long as I did, so. And the people that had me on there was 3 people. One was me, and the other was a supervisor, and the other was a regular worker. Alright, so I work like that, learning the ropes, trying to learn how things work so I can get the job done. And, it was going okay, but the managers showed true colors after a while. I mean, one day, I had to run the salad bar, run the line, run the dish room and pot room, while my coworker and manager was in the office looking at cars on Craigslist. And I'm like, I need help. And I went back there and said, I need help because they said dish room was backing up, pot room backing up. We'll be out in a minute. So I was serving line because so many students was hitting us. And I'm like, and they said, oh, go in dish room, get that caught up. I'm doing my best to try to do everything, get moving, but it wasn't. Then they took me off that and put me in the pot room where, oh my gosh, it was like the tables was full of dishes and we didn't serve that many. And I heard other people talking about this one not doing what they're supposed to do. They just like wasting the equipment like they're supposed to. Like the knives, the cutting boards. Alright, so that's how my life went at Service Source for a while at Building 1. And I got tired of it because last straw was they left me. My coworker and my manager left me there. I had to clean dish machine out by myself, clean the dish room up by myself, clean the pot room, and take out trash. One bag of trash was so heavy it busted all over me while I was trying to put it in the dumpster. I had to get a broom and dustpan to sweep it up, and I forgot to clean the pot room 100% because, and they had the manager / supervisor had the nerve to say to me, you must have been watching TV. And I said, well, you left and my coworker left and I was cleaning and I had trash busted all over me, smelling like food. Pretty much he didn't want to hear it and told me I was in the wrong. So, and the head manager at this particular building didn't want to do nothing about it, just letting it keep going on. So I talked to the bigger ones above that one. Told them I was unhappy at the job. I will quit, because gave them the list of what happened to me there, and they're like, well, that's not right, and you said they ain't doing nothing about this? Well, I'll do something about it. You're going to building 2. So building 2 is how I work. Alright, I worked everywhere in building 2. Salad bar, or they call it the U-bar. I worked online. I worked in dish room and pot room. Alright. Now, I wasn't the best worker there all day, but I was one of the hardest workers. A couple of my supervisors, managers said, work smarter, not harder. And I'm like, well, that defeats what I was built on. My rules was work hard and smart at the same time. Because here's what I meant by that. Where it was time to close down for the night. Oh yeah, I was sent to night shifts instead of morning shifts on this particular time period. I really hated nights because I did not like working night shifts, because seeing a doctor at 9 to 10 to be to work by 11 or 12, it was hard to do. I would actually have to take days off to see the doctor because I couldn't see them in the time frame they give me to be at work. Because always the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clocks were always so full, it wasn't funny. And I'm like, because a lot of times I'm not getting my medicines I need, or... So, it kept going on like this for a while, and... I went to the hospital one day because of my asthma, and they said I had scoliosis of the spine. And I always had troubles bending down, but I just never knew why until that. It never bothered me until they had me keep lifting up heavy stuff. They say lift with your knees. I don't see how you can lift with your knees when you're standing on a step ladder to put ice in the soda machines. They didn't have refillable ice at this point. They just had the ones where you just fill them up. And they always told me, well, you need to lift with your knees when you do ice. And I'm like, do we have one of them step ladders that will go all the way to the cart where I can lift with my knees and raise it all the way up when I do the ice? Because of having to do milks and ice, I really hurt my back so much that it hurts for me to do certain things where I bend down and stuff like that because it aggravates me. Now, my asthma was running hectic there, yes. That's why I said I wasn't the best worker, because there'd be days I missed, and my asthma run me into the ground. It wouldn't make me any good because I'm allergic to molds and bleach. And there's a reason why I mentioned mold. I'm allergic to that and bleach, because they would use bleach. One day, they got me in the pot room, which my asthma was cool with and okay with, and it helped my asthma because the fan would blow cool air in my face, so I didn't have a problem with that. So, I'm working, I'm cleaning, and I'm doing my job. We get some newer workers in there eventually. And a lot of times this worker would harass me, and I'd tell management nothing was done, but one day he was harassing me so much, I said, listen up, old man. This is the first time I called him old man. The manager gave me a lecture about calling him about old man, too, but the same manager that was giving me a lecture calls him an old man, and it's like, And I said this to him. I said, why is it okay for when you say it, but when I say it, it's wrong? I said, he's harassing me. You're not doing nothing about it. Every time he yells at me, tells me to shove a finger up my butt, I tell y'all just ignore it. And that's when I realized this person was their favorite worker. Now, this person got fired for reasons I ain't going to say because it might give away who this person was. But since I'm not using names, they can't sue me, so. Yes, I'm smiling because I hated ServiceSource at these buildings. So 2012 rolls up. I'm still hanging in there working, but my grandmother dies that year, so I took time off for that. Just a funeral off and viewing. Came to work, pretending I was okay, pretending I was laughing happy, but inside, I was dead on the inside. So, going to almost halfway through 2012, my lung collapsed. Alright, they had me on life support for a small amount of time because they want my lung to inflate like how it's supposed to be instead of being deflated. Come to find out, human resources, the management, supervisors, were all in the main manager's office laughing that I was on life support, saying he's faking it so he can get out of work. I'm on my deathbed for ServiceSource just to laugh at me. So I came back, worked harder. That whole government shutdown, I lost a job and 3 family members on top of it. Different story, but still, my mindset was hurt from 2012, and it was hurt from 2013 from death family member. 2014 rolls around. I got my job back. I'm doing everything I can to keep it because manager said maybe I need to get a desk job. Maybe I need to just quit and go on disability. All right. This is how bad it was getting at ServiceSource with me. But I was the only one to clean up the mold in the pot room, so I guess that's why they kept me. I'm not sure. Because I would scrub everything down. And we'd have a strong wire hose. I would spray off all that nasty stuff. And I would clean inside the sinks. Pretty much time the morning comes in. That pot room, you could probably eat off the floors or the walls because that's how clean they were. 2015 rolls along. Alright. I had another death in family. No, 2014 I had death in family. And I should have took time off, but because I want to prove to everyone that I'm okay, or try to prove to myself I was okay, but really I was dying on the inside. I lost my brother that year. So not only 2012 I lost my grandmother, I lost my brother, and it's like, what the... I need to work because my brother wouldn't want me assault, which I should have took time off to get my mindset right because my mind wasn't with me. And I would get into deeper depression, deeper stress, and even into drama. That's how bad my mindset was. 2015 rolls along. 2014 manager supervisor still give me a hard time about I couldn't breathe properly like them. They always talk about me getting a desk job. Or 2015 lost my granddad, which it did hurt, but also I ain't gonna say it, but my mindset was even slipping from me more because it's like, am I the cause of this happening? So 2016 rolls along. Alright. The manager's really riding my butt. And they just kept, pushing me to the brink of losing my mind. And on top of that, at the end of that year, my second granddad just passed away. And I'm like, trying to keep myself together, but all these deaths have really eaten me up. And I was going further into drama, further losing my mind from who I am. Because I thought, hey, I was the cause of everything happening in my family. Which one of my aunts was pushing that way anyways. But my last year there, I was thinking, keep putting up with these managers that would always blame me for when drama happens. Because one day I was sitting down to eat breakfast, to have a good breakfast. I had this one guy who was yelling at me and harassing me, and I told him, you're not my supervisor, you're not my manager. Leave me alone so I can eat and enjoy my breakfast. And when time came up to it, coworkers that were supposed to stick up to me, supposedly my friends, they would shut up because that was the manager's favorite worker. And this dude was lazy. He worked hard not to work. That's how 90% of these people were. Because a couple of people after me that came, they got supervisor spots and they worked hard to get out of work. But they were manager's favorites, so that's why they got supervisor spots. Alright. So my last year there, the manager was really riding me, and I found out I was going to be transferred to multiple sites in 1 year. Oh yeah, I did have morning shift, 2015, I think. So I was working the morning shift with one person that me and him, when we're into the pot room, we demolish all pots and pans. We get all the pots and pans done before lunchtime. And when lunch comes around, we're done with that. And we're ready to go home for the dinner to start their shift. Or lunch and dinner start their shift. But the way Service Source treated me, from the death of my grandmother to the death of my granddad, from 2012 to 16, they literally destroyed a lot of my mental state. And especially when people started drama outside of work and they brought it into work, I was to blame for that. Yes, I'd love to give all these managers names, all these supervisors names. But there is one supervisor that stuck up for me one day because I couldn't breathe. And I was struggling to get air. And the supervisor said, are you going home? And I told the whole story. The manager said I need to quit faking and get back to work. So when lunch shift comes, because this was my last... Or no, actually this was like on my morning shift going to lunch. Because they said... Because we take 30-minute break for breakfast to go to lunch. Supervisor says, you are not capable of working. Go home. And I told him the story. I said, the manager says if I go, I will be fired. I need to quit faking my asthma. And the supervisor's like, well, I'll talk to the manager. After, I don't know what was said, but I was free to go home. Oh, where I got my tribal ID to prove that I'm part of the Chippewa tribe. I was showing it around, being happy and proud about that. A couple of the co-workers came to me and said, well, the manager said you need to stop showing that fake ID and stop saying you're Native American, because Native Americans are not welcome at Service Source. This is the part of the story I never shared with no one until on this video. The manager says Native Americans are not welcome at Service Source. I think if I could have took these two people and testified on my behalf, I could have sued Service Source for discrimination against me since I was Native American. But yeah, this is how things went at ServiceSource. If I did something right, people would say I'd done something wrong. I could leave for the bathroom and try to come back to work. People say I was lollygagging or something. All right. And the reason why they think I was faking my asthma, here's a story I told. I told them at school I faked my asthma one day. And I said I had to learn the hard way not to do that again, because next day I went to school because I faked and got out of school that particular day. Next day I was climbing upstairs and I'm like this. So I couldn't get no air next day. I was telling a coworker this story, and someone overheard it and told management that. And I said, yeah, I couldn't even climb upstairs. That's how bad I was the next day. And teachers lied and said they offered to help me to get to the nurse's office, but one teacher looked at me and said, quit faking, you faker. And I was going upstairs, they was going downstairs. When the nurse heard me, they said, I'm calling your mom, you're going to the hospital. Because my breathing was that bad. They had me take treatment and that didn't work, and they're like, yeah, we're calling your mom, you're going to the hospital because you can't breathe. I told that story to a coworker that I trust, and I said, yeah, that's the last and only time I faked my asthma. And that went back to management, and they heard the whole story, and it's like, well, we heard you've been telling people, they said this to me, we heard you've been telling your coworkers you've been faking your asthma to leave work. And I said, can I tell my side of the story, or are you going to believe theirs? Well, what's your side? When I told them my story, they said, yeah, right. And, oh yeah, when I went to human resources about any problems about management or supervisors, they would say, well, you're in the wrong, managers and supervisors, right. Several people went to, I ain't going to mention their names, but several people went to human resources to complain about a manager. They said everything we said would be confidential between them, and they would write up, they would investigate what's going on at ServiceSource. One of the ServiceSource personnel that was human resources told the manager everything we said to them. And we all were getting threatened to be fired or written up. If you want to go to ServiceSource to get a job, I wouldn't recommend it. Especially if these managers and supervisors are still there. There's one that will stick up for you, but they transferred that one to a different site. But let me tell you this. Don't ever work at ServiceSource, because they'll treat you like crap. If you're going through a hard time, they're like wolves. They'll sense that and make your mind go. So, to me, this is a warning video for anyone that wants to work at ServiceSource. And I need to talk to... Yeah, because these stories I've been debating whether I should do them or not, and I see this one guy that does his YouTube channel doing these videos about how he was treated at his work, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this, because hopefully this video spreads like wildfire through the YouTube. That way people can see what the hell they put me through. And, oh yeah, there's this one section, I forget what year they were there, but there's this one group of people at ServiceSource. They wasn't all up here, but they did their part. They wasn't the fast, they wasn't the slowest, they wasn't the best, they wasn't the worst. They did their part pretty good. They were all mental. They had something wrong. They got rid of the They only brought the supervisor back from that particular group, but they got rid of all of his crew. This was a disability job. And if you were too far gone of what they needed, they'd either send you to a different building or they'd just fire you plain out and simple. They say service source for our people. They only mean them and management can treat you like crap and they can get away with it. That's what they mean by our people. Alright. Alright, I'm done with this video. Hope people learn. Do a little investigating on service source or even this video, because I keep hearing stories now from people that work there that the mold's so bad you can smell it. Or if you need a drink of water, you can't do it at your station. You have to walk to your locker, get a drink, and come back. Alright. It gets hot in the dish room, pot room, so where you're working in that situation, it gets pretty bad where you need something cool to keep going because there's no ACs there, there's no fans. There's only one little vent that worked. You'd have to stand under it to feel the cold because that dish machine and the pot room equipment, because all the heat and steam they pushed out, it got really hot in there. And because of that, that's why a lot of times I left work, because I couldn't breathe, because the mold in there was killing me. I'd have to clean a lot of mold out, and I'd get yelled at by supervisors for doing my job. And I replied to the supervisor, I said, I thought we're supposed to make sure everything remains sanitized, and you're telling me not to clean the mold off? Why? That's just dirt. I said, do you see the color of that? Dirt ain't green and growing like that. Dirt ain't black like that. That is black mold and that is mold. We also had pink stuff growing in the dish machine. One day where I cleaned underneath the where people put their plates to be sent to us to break them down and put them on dish machine. I cleaned underneath that whole belt. I seen mushrooms growing on the floor. There's a putrid smell that came from it. Some students was going up for a tour and they smelt that and they went back downstairs. Now, I still hear stories that they're allowing that stuff to happen still. And they're on the military base feeding people. Now, I've been hearing rumors from these same workers. They can't prove it, but... Oh, yeah, the last year I was leaving a service source, there was roaches in there. One day I was using the elevator, and these people were trying to make it seem like I'm lying about it. I was using the elevator. I felt something hit my neck, and go down my back. I'm like, what is that? Nothing happened. So I took my jacket off, and one of the management or supervisors came on and smacked it off. Hit me where smacked off what was, but hurt my back, and I realized it was like, and they were trying to say, well, I brought it from outside to in there. I said, they were trying to say it came from my house, the exterminators, and I'm like, I don't have them. Nice try. And they said, well, maybe one fell off the tree. I said, no, I didn't feel it fall off no tree. When I would have felt it if it fell off a tree and hit me. I said, it fell on me when I was using that elevator. But yeah, service source got roaches. So next time a student because even Goodwill threatened them, if roaches come down there, they're going to sue. Or something like that. But yeah, this is how bad ServiceSource is. Building 2 had roaches and mold, and I think that was actual mushrooms growing on the floor where I was cleaning one day with a nasty smell. The pressure washer tore it up so you wouldn't be able to tell after it came out. But yeah, these are feeding people, so I would wonder if they're still keeping this place, if they're trying to clean it or they're keeping it stinky, because I lost contact with people after saying I would tell these stories because they're afraid that might cost them their jobs. But I'm more worried about the students, because what if the spores of mold or fungus or whatever flew off from it and got into people's food? And I told people that, and I told someone that, and they're thinking about it, and they're saying that is true. What if it does somehow get in their lungs or whatever? But this is what y'all need to know about ServiceSource. It's not a pleasant place to work. And also on top of it, you have to be worried about mold, fungus, whatever that pink slimy crap is in the dish machine. And underneath the belt where you break down trays, where you clean up the nasty stuff, it's just like nasty. ServiceSource should be... I think someone else should take over ServiceSource and they get better management and better... Or ServiceSource remains there. Get better supervisors and management to train there, because if not, it makes me wonder how many workers will get sick because of the mold and mildews, to how many people they feed get the same way. Alright, y'all have a good night, good morning, wherever you're watching this YouTube video from. I don't want no people subscribing unless you want to. But I would like for people to view this video, like it, hate it, whatever, to keep this message alive, to saying there are jobs out there that treats their workers like crap and humiliate them on a daily basis like they done with me. Alright, y'all have a good one, and bye.